immediately following the hall of priests came the final chambers called the Adytum, the Holy of Holies, which was entered only by the high priest. This was the place of the shrine and the abode of the God. Each temple was a reproduction of the world. The ceilings were painted to represent the sky and the stars, while the floor was green and blue like the metals. Ceremonial cleanliness was at all times imperative, and the people before entering the temple most carefully purified themselves in a nearby stream. In later times, this became a ceremony of sprinkling with holy water before entrance into the temple. It is clear from the foregoing description that not only the modern Masonic lodges are copies of the Egyptian temple, but also the ancient ones, for there is complete identity in their internal decoration. But the minor or lower lodges, including those outside of Egypt, must have had a governing body, and so now. I proceed to quote C.H. Vail, who in his Ancient Mysteries describes fully the location and remains of the famous Grand Lodge of Luxor as follows. Now you see what this man said, that if you go into the Masonic lodges, they are like reproduction of what was before Christ in ancient Kemet. If you really been following me, if you really been listening to me, and if you really know your culture, Masons was never to go under any other denomination. They was not to bring Islam into the Masonic Lodge. They was not to bring Baptist, Christian, Buddhism into the Islamic Lodge. Christianity, Catholic, none of that. You come on, none of it. None of it was supposed to fall up under these Masonic lodges. A lot in America has been, how to put this, consolidated. And when you consolidate religion, that's when the confusion comes in. That's when the head, I forgot what they call a head person in these lodges. I think they like the Grand Poobahs or something like that. However it go, you know, it changes. You feel what I'm saying? The root of it changes. Because now you have changed this over to Christianity. Now we have to fall up under the Christianity laws and ways of life. Now when you have passed that on and you put somebody else in place and they're a Muslim, now things have changed again. I'm not saying that their ways, their laws are not accurate and correct, but their laws and their ways are for their culture. Not the Kemite, not the ancient Egyptian culture. The location of the Masonic Grand Lodge of Antiquity, at a short distance from Dendera, now called Upper Egypt, is the most extraordinary group of agricultural ruins presented in any part of the world. Known as the temples of the ancient city of Thebes, Thebes in its prime occupied a large area on both sides of the Nile. This city was the century of a great commercial nation of Upper Egypt ages before Memphis was the capital of the second nation in Lower Egypt. And however grand the architectural monuments of the later may have been, those of the former surpassed them. The portrayal by pencil or brush can convey but a faint idea of the perfected city. As the city stands today, it is like a city of giants who after a long conflict have been destroyed, leaving the ruins of their various temples as the only proof of their existence. The Temple of Luxor, it stands on a raised platform of brickwork, covering more than 2,000 feet in length and 1,000 feet in breadth. It is the one that interests the members of all ancient orders, especially so all the members of those orders that worship at the shrine of the secret fire more than perhaps any other, and stands on the eastern bank of the Nile. It is in a very ruined state, but records say the stupendous scale of its proportions almost takes away the sense of its incompleteness. Up to about a quarter of a century ago, the greater part of its columns in the interior and outer walls had been removed after falling for use elsewhere. This temple was founded by the Pharaoh Amenhotep III, who constructed the southern part, including the heavy colonnade overlooking the river. But destruction unfortunately conceals this fact. The chief entrance to the temple looked to the east, while the holy chambers at the upper end of the plain approached the Nile. As mighty as the temple of Luxor was, it was exceeded in magnitude and grandeur by that of Karnak. The distance between these two great structures was 1.5 miles. Along this avenue was a double row of sphinxes placed 12 feet apart, and the width of the avenue was 60 feet. When in perfect state, this avenue presented the most extraordinary interest that the world has ever seen. If we had the power to picture from the field of imagination the grand processions of neophytes constantly passing through and taking part in the ceremonies of initiation, we will be powerless to produce the grandeur of the surroundings and the imposing sight of color and magnificent trappings of those who took part. Neither can we produce the music that kept the vast number of people in steady marching order. Crude it might have been to the cultivated ear of the 20th century, but could not the palpitating strains sung by mass voices on the lapse of time, whose history launches the profoundest aspirations of the human heart, like the trend of a mighty river, because the grand currents of universal law, imparting the desire to that shadowed past as it steps forth from the pages of history, dim with age. Egypt must have been, when these temples were built, a martial nation, for records of her warlike deeds are perpetuated in deeply engraved tablets, which even now excite the admiration of the best judges of archaeological remains. She was also a highly civilized nation and of a nature that could bear the expenditure which always attends the culture of the arts. She surpassed in her astonishing architecture all other nations that have existed upon the earth. I am fully convinced by these references and quotations that an Egyptian Grand Lodge of ancient mysteries actually existed some 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago, okay, or more, on the banks of the Nile in the city of Thebes, and that it was the only Grand Lodge of the ancient world whose ruins have been found in Egypt, and that it was the governing body which necessarily controlled the ancient mysteries together with the philosophical schools and minor lodges whenever they happen to have been organized. Now this is C4, the rebuilding of the Temple of Delphi. The Temple of Delphi was burnt down in 548 BC, and it was King Amasis of Egypt who rebuilt it for the brethren by donating 3 times as much as was needed in the sum of 1,000 talents and 50,000 pounds of alum. According to information at hand, the temple had organized its members into a amphictyonic league for protection against political and other forms of violence, but they were too poor to raise sufficient funds from the membership, and they decided upon a public contribution from the citizens of Greece. Accordingly, they wandered throughout the land soliciting aid, but failed in their efforts. Having decided to visit the brethren in Egypt, they approached King Amasis, who, as Grand Master, unhesitantly offered to rebuild the temple and donated more than 3 times as much as was needed for the purpose. NB, here it would be well to note that the Greeks regarded the temple of Delphi as a foreign institution. 2, they were unsympathetic towards it, and for the same reason destroyed it by fire. 3, clearly the temple of Delphi was a branch of the Egyptian mystery system projected in Greece, Sanford's Mediterranean world. That's the end of that chapter. I say this, you're starting to understand that we was a jealous, we have put it, these other continents were jealous of Africans. You feel me? Jealous. You feel me? Had vengeance for us, wanted to take from us, wanted to go to war with us in every way, not knowing that we was in whom we pray to favor. You feel me? Favor. You got me? As I said, you know what I mean? I don't believe we had a covenant with whom we pray. And if we did, I have not read it nowhere. It has not surfaced anywhere that showed evident how it has surfaced with Abraham over in Canaan. You feel me? So I say to you this right here. If we did have a covenant with Amun, it was broken during the time of Ramses. I believe it's the second, or I think it's the second, Ramses the second rule, when he took over and was Pharaoh. It was broken. It was broken, it was released, and it was given to, you get me? It was given back to the Jews. How we handled the Jews was wrong. You get it? How we handled the Jews was wrong. You know, it should have been a time that what was asked was given. Whether you could release all of them at that one period of time, or you couldn't release everyone at that one period of time, there should have been some type of peace talk. There should have been some type of treaty that says, okay, this is what we got going on for this amount of time. Feel me? What we gonna do, pay these Jews. What we gonna do, feed these Jews. What we gonna do is uplift the fact that they're our slaves. They are our prisoners of war. What we're gonna do, release a certain amount every 30 days. You feel me? Or every 90 days, every 120 days. Whatever project they're working on, whatever, when that project is done, they want to leave, get out of my country. Go and get out of my country. This your money, take it on to another land and do your family some good. But when you're greedy and you're sitting upon a throne and you're greedy, you feel me? You're greedy. You have no love in you. All you have is hate in you. All you have is how to put it, that evil in you that wants to hurt. That evil in you that wants to not see things from another point of view, only your view. Then mass destruction is going to come to you. You feel me? So for those of you in Richmond, Virginia, if you're viewing this, You feel me? Whatever you had going on here that been destroyed, you did this to yourself. You feel me? You did this wrong. You got it? You did this wrong. You even went so far as to take, steal, rob, and kill within your own culture. How was that right? How was that right? And you was influenced from a foreign country. You was influenced from foreigners that you allowed into this culture. Anywho, once again, I am the Nasty Pastor. Please go like, share, subscribe, comment to my YouTube channel, OFM Kemet Edition. Only Faith Ministries Kemet Edition. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Run it up. Please, run it up. Love you. I'm out.